This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. This is your final spoiler warning. If you do not want The Last of Us Part 2 spoiled for you, then click off this video now. Okay, let's get right into it. What Naughty Dog has done to Joel in this game is downright disrespectful to his character and what they built over the first game. I love the first game, and even before all the leaks were coming out, I did not want a sequel. The Last of Us ends on a perfect note by providing closure and generating discussion. Let me set the stage for Joel's mistreatment. When we first meet Abby, we do not have any context on why she is getting close to Tommy's settlement, other than that she is looking for someone. She is trying to hunt someone down. Abby breaks off from her group and she tries to go find one of the settlement's patrols to get a lead on that person she is trying to find. As she is doing this, she is attacked by the infected. It gets to the point where she feels like she is in over her head, as the infected are ruthless within this area. Abby makes several escapes, and then one of the infected is about to kill her, but before that can happen, Joel appears and saves her life. Joel and Tommy work with Abby to try and defeat the infected and make it out alive. Our group is looking for a safe place to get away from the infected, and Abby suggests her lodge where her group is holding up. The three of them make it out together and get to the lodge. Once they get there, Joel and Tommy find themselves in an ambush, and before they can react, Abby shoots Joel in the leg. She then proceeds to beat him with a golf club. Ellie tries to save Joel, but she is restrained and must watch Abby kill Joel. This all happens within the first 2 hours of the game, and it simply sucks. I could see a situation that could have worked by having Joel die, but the execution of it here reeks of bad and inconsistent writing for our characters. I could understand Joel and Tommy taking safety at the lodge, but they were acting really dumb considering the world that they have been living in. Joel isn't showing any signs of caution with these people he does not know, and Tommy is being even dumber by suggesting that Abby's group go to his settlement to restock. Like I said, both Joel and Tommy do not know these people, so don't you want to vent these strangers before letting them into your protected settlement? Joel is a seasoned veteran of this world. He did terrible things to help him and Tommy survive, and he continued that path with Tess. In the first game, we see this when Joel is able to identify an ambush just by looking at the situation. Joel and Tommy are smart characters, so why are they suddenly really dumb in part 2? Joel would be grateful for the shelter, but he wouldn't put him and Tommy into a situation where they are essentially surrounded by walking them right into an ambush. Both of these characters would be cautious about trusting these people, but the writers need Joel to be ambushed so that Abby can kill him and be the plot device that ignites the game's story. I am going to be saying this a lot, but the writing feels contrived and forced. The Last of Us Part 1 established Joel as a smart character, shaped by the brutal world that he lived in. He wouldn't suddenly become dumb in the sequel unless the writers couldn't come up with a creative way to put him in that position. Now, I could buy Joel walking into this ambush if instead of Joel saving Abby, that Abby then saved Joel. Then Joel would feel grateful for Abby's assistance, and then when they get to the lodge, he may have his guard down because he now trusts her because she saved his life. I could have believed him being ambushed in that situation, but sadly that is not what we got. On top of this, Abby is another character that falls victim to being dumb. Abby only kills Joel, but she leaves both Tommy and Ellie alive. Does she not think that Ellie and Tommy will try to seek revenge? Tommy even tells Abby's group that Joel is his brother, and based on how Ellie calls out for Joel, Abby knows that Ellie cares for him. But if Abby killed them, then we wouldn't have any story. Again, this is so contrived. The first game handled a situation like this at the end with Joel rescuing Ellie from the hospital and shooting Marlene. Marlene begs for her life, but Joel kills her, saying that if Marlene survives her wound, she would just come after them. Joel's decision in the first game makes sense, but Abby's doesn't. If you need to make your characters do things that are out of character for them, then your audience will not buy those decisions and reject the bad writing. Now, before I get the comments saying that Joel dying just fits the brutal realism of the world, I want to direct you back to the first game. In the first Last of Us, while fighting a hunter, Joel is knocked down and lands really hard on some rebar. He is severely injured, and if the game wanted to go hardcore in the realistic route, then this would have been the place to kill him off. But Naughty Dog made a better decision by having Joel survive, which resulted in creating a great dilemma at the end of the game where Joel needs to decide if he should let Ellie die for a cure or if he should selfishly save her life. And then when he saves her, does he decide to tell her the truth or lie to her? The entire ending is a great dilemma and creates some very captivating drama. So for the first game, Naughty Dog opted to go for that interesting dilemma and drama rather than having Joel die. I think they missed a great opportunity to do the same thing in Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 asks the players to witness one of their favorite characters die early on, and then they are forced to continue to play as the killer. The story tries to present other sides to Abby so that we can understand her. The problem is that they did this in the wrong order. Before Abby kills Joel, we do not have any development with her, whereas we have a full prior game with Joel and we are going into the second game loving him. Once Abby kills Joel, she is now irredeemable, which means that every effort that the story makes to understand and empathize with her after this point doesn't work. It is a huge ask for the audience and it isn't the right move. While I'm not a video game writer, I do want to present an alternative to what we got in The Last of Us Part 2. I think both Joel and Ellie's story should be going on at the same time as Abby's. This way we can see both develop at the same time. With Joel and Ellie, we can see them dealing with the aftermath of the first game and maybe having Ellie learn to forgive Joel for lying to her. At the same time, we could cut to sections with Abby and develop her character prior to her story intersecting with Joel's. This way the story has done the work up front to develop Abby and make her more integrated into the narrative rather than shoehorned in like she does feel in this game. This would be a good opportunity for us to understand Abby's perspective and why she wants to get revenge. Playing as Abby might still be a bit unsettling since she wants to actively hurt another character that we love, but we would potentially understand her better. Then we could have a pivotal midpoint which kind of plays out similar to the main game where Abby is hunting down Joel, but then she is almost killed by the infected and Joel saves her life. At this point, Abby starts feeling conflicted about wanting to kill Joel. She understands that he murdered her father, but he also saved her life, and maybe she questions if he truly is evil. Then we could take a nice chunk of the story having Abby be conflicted towards Joel and not knowing what to do. At the same time, she could gain a relationship with Joel and Ellie. Then we could have an instance where Joel is in a situation where he could die, but Abby is the only one who can save him. You could show her inner conflict at an emotional high as she tries to figure out what action she wants to take. Abby can delay to save Joel and then decide to save him. The game's theme or message could be about forgiveness, and this would be in line at least with the theme of hope from the first game. The Last of Us was very bleak, but the first game had this constant line of hope that was well represented through Joel and Ellie's relationship. I think a sequel with the message of forgiveness would fit right in with what they did in the first game. But as it stands, we have Abby who doesn't really acknowledge that Joel saves her life, and then when she gets the opportunity to take her revenge, she just takes it, which makes Abby appear like a robot and irredeemable through her initial actions. While I stated that Joel's death feels contrived and forced by making him dumb to get into that situation, his death is mostly served to have early shock value to the player, along with being a plot device for the narrative. It feels like they took all the development of his multi-layered character from the first game and flushed it down the toilet. So Joel survived all those prior encounters with death to only get ambushed like he did and then die disrespectfully. The handling of Joel in Part 2 feels like it was written by another writer who does not understand the characters from the first game. But the ironic thing is that Neil Druckmann also wrote the first game. I think the nosedive in quality of the writing contributes to that Neil is in a different position than he was with his prior efforts. With The Last of Us Part 1, Neil began working on this story while he was in college in 2004. He attempted to get his story made into a game and then a comic book, but both efforts failed. He later found himself working at Naughty Dog on the Uncharted games. He became friends with the game director Bruce Straley, and the two of them began collaborating on what would be known as The Last of Us. Neil obviously had something special with The Last of Us, but he also had a great team at Naughty Dog along with Bruce to collaborate with. We even saw a similar situation when Neil was working on Uncharted 4. Amy Hennig had an outline of her story done, but when she left Naughty Dog, Neil and Bruce used that outline for their version of Uncharted 4. After Uncharted 4, we saw the departure of many Naughty Dog employees, including Bruce. During The Last of Us Part 2, Neil was in a different position. He doesn't have his same collaborators or plot outline to work off of, and it shows. He still has talent, and that is probably the most frustrating aspect of Part 2's story. The Joel and Ellie flashback sequences mostly work really well. In many cases, they feel like the same quality of the original Last of Us. Honestly, I would have loved an entire game centered around those events. The flashbacks show more bonding between Joel and Ellie, along with dealing with the aftermath of the original's ending. But with the game we got, the flashbacks feel like Naughty Dog is teasing something to the player that we can never have. I have many problems with The Last of Us Part 2's story. Treatment of Joel is really what kills it for me. I am not mad about him dying, I'm pissed about how they executed it. In order to get the plot moving, Abby needs to kill Joel, and instead of finding a creative way to kill off the prior game's protagonist, they find a contrived and forced method to get Joel into a situation where he dies. By doing this, they turn a beloved character who had many layers into a stupid person who cannot see an ambush he is walking into. Joel from the first game would not have been in that situation if they wrote him consistently in Part 2. While there were some good bits with the Joel and Ellie flashbacks, those sequences really just present a better sequel that we will never have. The first game had two great characters that had a compelling relationship. It was thrilling to see them escape death, and the lighter moments provided great humor and warmth. The first game had strong messages of hope, grief, acceptance, and finding something to live for. The bond between Joel and Ellie is what many people connected to, especially with the character of Joel. For me, The Last of Us Part 2 will be remembered as a bad piece of high-production fan fiction. For me, Joel and Ellie's story concludes at the end of the first game, and I like to think that Joel eventually told Ellie the truth, and she learned to forgive him. So yeah, if you saw my first video on this, then you knew what to expect going into this video. I wanted to do this video for two reasons. One is that this video reflects my opinion of the story within the remastered version of the game, and I figured if Naughty Dog can do this then with their game, I can do this with my video. Two is that the treatment of Joel is something that is still relevant and has become a great example of how not to treat your legacy character well. I have seen many arguments about this. Oh, I just wanted to have a happy ending. I am mad because bad stuff happens in real life, and so I should just accept it in the game because the game tries to ground itself there. Except much of those arguments are just poor excuses to wave off poor writing. You want to kill off Joel? Go for it, but do it well and make it a fitting end for the character. The writing and character work within The Last of Us Part 2 feels pretentious, forced, contrived, and overall just bad. It is obvious that much of the talent that made up that studio from before is not involved with making Part 2. It seems like somewhere after Uncharted 4, many of the big talent from the studio left, and then Neil was in a position with larger control. The Last of Us Original is a fantastic game, and one that I still love to this day. But as the years have gone on, Naughty Dog has only given us more reasons to not be interested in them anymore. They did that visual remake of the first for the PS5 and PC, effectively erasing the work of the original in many ways, and it just comes across as a cash grab. Sure, the original was remastered for the PS4 a year later after it came out, but it acted like a Game of the Year edition, with a better frame rate and all the DLC bundled in. That PS4 version still plays great, and that's my go-to version, so you really didn't need a PS5 visual remake. That time and money could have been used somewhere else. Then we had the TV show, which I watched some of it, but overall it's a lesser version of the game. I didn't really care for any of the changes. Now we have Part 2 being remastered, and I have no idea if they're going to tackle a Part 3. I would love to see this studio try something new, and for the love of God, do not remake or honestly touch Uncharted. It hasn't been ruined yet, and I do not trust much of modern writing. The truth is that The Last of Us never needed a sequel. The fact a sequel exists inherently hurts the great ending of the original. What are your thoughts on Joel and Part 2? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.